car's engine, if you want it to live, come with me.
Good, you're already here. Glad you made it. I'm David. This is Wrench Therapy. Today we're going to talk about how not to kill your engine by keeping an eye on your oil level. I know you're here for some knowledge, so we're going to get right to it. I know I said you could kill your engine if you didn't take proper care of it. Well, that's what we're going to check. Oil level is critical to making sure that your engine stays healthy and is protected in every way we possibly can. So we're going to go out to the shop and I'm going to show you a couple of different dipsticks to show you what to look for on your dipstick. Hopefully I'll have one that represents what you have. And I'm going to show you how to check the oil. And then afterwards we're going to talk about why it's so important. So let's go ahead out to the shop and get started. Here are a couple of different types of dipsticks. They all have one thing in common though. Each one of them has a range. And you can see right here, this first one, the cross hatching has a low and a high spot. The high spot closest to the handle is going to be full. This cross hatching represents the amount that it is dropped until you hit this line right there. That line represents 1 quart low. So you've got this style. This one doesn't even have lines, it's just got the cross hatching. This one just has 2 dots, 2 holes in it. High, which is full, and the low one right there, which is 1 quart low. This one is even more unique. Let's see if I can get it to show up on the camera. This one has a temperature. It says 100 degrees Fahrenheit, and then it's got minimum and maximum. You can see that right there. So they want you to check the oil once the car's a little bit warmed up. So these are different ways different manufacturers have done it, but all of them have the same thing in common. They've got a mark that's full, that's going to be closest to the handle, and one mark down from that is going to be 1 quart low. Now you might see one that has 3 or 4 holes in it. If it has that, that's fine. But remember, the bottom hole is going to be 1 quart low and the top hole is going to be full. This is a 2013 Accord that's one of our training vehicles here. Representative of Honda certainly, but most vehicles are going to be similar in layout. You're going to find a dipstick. In this case it's orange, some cars it's yellow, some cars it's red, some cars it's not painted anything at all. But that's your dipstick, and over here is your oil cap. So how do we check the oil? Super easy. Get yourself a rag. Now I know you saw me put on some safety gear. I've got my rubber gloves on. You saw me put on safety glasses. That is part of the protocol here at the school. So I'm not suggesting that you have to gear up totally like that, but I certainly would suggest that you wear gloves whenever you're dealing with an engine, because it's going to be warm and the oil is going to be warm too. You don't want to burn yourself. All right, I pulled it out, I cleaned it off. I'm going to put it back in, wait a second or two, pull it back out, and there is our oil. And you can see right there, you can see this one is right at the full mark. Now this has got good clean oil in it because this car doesn't get a whole lot of miles on it. So it's pretty representative of a low mileage oil that's that clear. When you first put the oil in, it's going to be so clear you probably wouldn't even see it on the dipstick without really looking. All right, but that's all you do. You just look, and you saw it was right between our marks. You wipe it back off, you put it in, that's it. That's all there is to checking the oil. Open up the hood, pull it out, wipe it off, put it back in, wait a couple of seconds, pull it out, and check. And there we go. Super easy, right? Anybody can do it. Now, I showed you some dipsticks, and one of those dipsticks had a temperature on it. It said it wanted it checked at about 100 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a great idea because the oil, as it warms up, is going to expand a little bit, and that's when we want the most protection, is while the car is running. When it's sitting still and turned off, oil in there is whatever level it is, but when we've got it warmed up, that's when we want to make sure that we have the appropriate oil level. So I always recommend that you check it when it's warmed up. That's going to give you the truest representation of the oil level when the engine needs the protection the most, when it's running. All right, so now where will we put the oil? Right over here in the oil cap. So I'm going to pull this guy off, show you the cap. All right, there you go. And you can see on there, let me get it so the glare's not on, there you go. All right, it says SAE 0W20. That is the weight of the oil for this particular engine. That number changes based on engine design, engine age, manufacturer. You're going to see a lot of different numbers. How do you know what oil you should put in? Well, this one they put it on the cap, but they also put right down here, see owner's manual. I've got one right here. This is out of one of our other vehicles, but the owner's manual is the most important book you've never read. Everything you need to make sure your car is being maintained properly is in that owner's manual. So whenever you have a question about what oil or what tire pressure or what coolant or what spark plugs or anything that's going into your engine, or anything else on your car. If you want to know what light bulb's supposed to be on your headlight, it's going to tell you in the owner's manual. If you don't know how to turn the wipers on intermittent, it's in the owner's manual. You want to know how to set the climate control, owner's manual. You want to link your phone to the car so that you can talk hands-free, answer without having to hold your phone next to your head, which is obviously a very safety important procedure. It tells you how to link in the owner's manual. So always make sure you have that handy and take some time and read it. All right, so right here is the hole where we're going to put a funnel, and we're going to add our oil right there. Now I want to recommend to you, when you're putting oil in, you kind of sneak up on that full mark. Don't just say, oh, it needs a quart, and just dump a quart in there. It's not great for an engine if it's overfilled. So I recommend that you, if your dipstick shows it's down to the add a quart, add half a quart, give it a couple of minutes to settle down in there, check the level, make sure you're still below that full mark. If you're only halfway, great, put the other half in. But kind of sneak up on it, don't do it all at once, because you end up with more oil in there sometimes, and that's not great. It can cause leaks and so forth, so we don't want to do that. So we want to sneak up on that full mark. If it just takes a couple of minutes, you know, it's worth it to make sure we get it right. Now, whenever I'm going to do something like this, I'm going to take this cap and I'm going to set it right here on my hood latch. The reason I do that is I can't close the hood with that guy sitting there. And this makes sure that I double check everything underneath here, that I've got my dipstick back in properly, that I've got my cap on, that I haven't left any tools sitting underneath here, any rags or anything like that. This is my reminder to double check before I'm finished. Then I'm going to take this guy, put it back on here, and I'm going to spin it. Okay, give it a nice little snug, and that's all you have to do for actually adding oil. So, dipstick for checking, oil cap for adding, manual for all the information on what kind of oil to put in, and we're going to talk about that in just a minute. We're going to go over the why that we want to do this. Well, that wasn't too difficult, was it? So let's take a few minutes and talk about those numbers that we saw on the cap and why it's so important to do our check our oil level, because that's the big deal. We want to make sure that we're doing this for the right reason. So there are 3 reasons why we want to keep on top of our oil. First one, lubrication. That's the primary purpose of oil, is to lubricate the engine, keep all the metal parts from wearing against each other. under all conditions. So we have to have the right oil to make sure that it lubricates properly. Second reason, cooling. The oil in our engine will help take some of the heat away from the engine that's a natural part of it running. So we get a cooling effect from the oil. If our oil is low, it's not going to cool as efficiently. Just like if it's low, it's not going to lubricate as efficiently. Third reason is corrosion. We got metal parts. We have moisture in the air. It will get inside the engine and it will rust the engine. So oil, proper oil in the engine will keep the parts inside from rusting. So those are the three reasons we need to have good quality oil in the car, and we have to have it at the proper level to keep it from dying. All right, now what do those numbers mean? Well, here are three common numbers that we're going to see on the list for our particular vehicle. That number will change based on the vehicle. So what do? We look it up in the owner's manual unless it's right there on the cap. Like the car that I showed you in the shop, it had 0W20 on it. Those numbers are going to change for the vehicles. Older vehicles will have different numbers than newer vehicles. European cars will have different numbers than American cars. Asian might have different from American. So there's a lot of different varieties out there, and you want to make sure that you're doing the right ones. So first number, in this case it's 10. That is the viscosity or thickness of the oil when it's cold. So that's our cold number. The lower the number, the thinner the oil, the easier it flows through the engine when it's cold. So that's a key thing on startup. Huge amount of wear on our engines happens while we're warming the car up. So it's critical that we take it easy on the engine, drive easily until we get some temperature in the engine. This oil is going to do all it can, but if it's cold outside, like this morning it was 32 degrees here, I had to let that car warm up. Now that doesn't mean I sit it in the driveway and let it idle for 10 minutes, no. After about 30 seconds, it's safe to drive. Just take it easy. Give this oil a chance to flow through and make sure it's lubricating everything. All right, so first number, the lower number, is going to be for low temperature when the oil is cold. The middle number means winter, so basically these two go together. So cold number, cold low viscosity number, and the W means that's the winter side of things. This side, in this case 30, that is when the engine is fully warmed up. So when it's hot, this is what viscosity or weight the oil mimics when it's warmed up. So it can change its properties from cold to hot, because when it's hot, this 10 weight oil would be too thin and it wouldn't protect the engine. So we need a thicker oil once it warms up. So that's why we have these different viscosities. Now, back in my father's day and my grandfather's day, we didn't have this kind of oil. We had a straight 30 weight or 40 weight or 50 weight, something like that. And if you've checked your lawnmower, you might have a straight 30 weight on your lawnmower. That's fine, because the lawnmower runs at a very narrow temperature range. We generally don't cut our grass in the wintertime. So it's a summer operation and we're going to have a single weight oil. That's fine for that. We don't want to change these numbers. Sometimes one of your friends, your well-meaning friends, will say, oh, your car's got a lot of mileage on it, or you're doing this with it. You need to change the viscosity of oil to protect it. Don't. I'm sure your friend means well. They didn't design the engine. The engineers that built this car, this is what they've spec'd out. Whatever's in your owner's manual, that's what you need in your car. Unless your friend's one of the people that designed that engine, don't change what the manufacturer recommends. And I don't care how many ads you see on TV for this oil, for that, and so forth and so on. Just ignore them. Put in there what it says in your owner's manual. That's the only way to go to make sure you're getting the proper protection. Now, the best thing you can do is use synthetic oil instead of regular oil. But that's a video for another time, because that's going to be way too deep for this one. But if you have a choice, always put synthetic in. It gives a much better protection level than regular or conventional oil. So if you've got that option, go ahead and put that in there. But if you want to know more about that, look for a future video and we'll talk about that then, and you'll be able to see why it's so important, and I'll have some show and tell stuff that'll be interesting. But anyway, This is what you use. This is why we do it. Lubrication, cooling, and corrosion protection. This is the reason we do it. So make sure you're checking your oil on a regular basis, at least once a month. And once you see how much your car is using, because that's normal, all vehicles are going to use a little bit of oil. Some might go thousands of miles before they need oil topped off. Some might go hundreds. Depends on your vehicle, its age, its condition. That's why we need to check. We need to keep on top of it so that we give it what it needs, okay? That's the only way to keep from killing your engine. All right, if you enjoyed this, if you got something out of it, please press like. Leave me a comment if you'd like. If you've got some ideas for some other videos, by all means, put them down there in the comments. I read all of them, and just let me know. And if you got good information out of this, you want to subscribe, by all means subscribe. There will be more videos coming. Have a good one, everybody.